All right. Hey, welcome everybody to the Functional Medicine Show with Dr. Lauren Castle. I'm going to play this reel, then we'll be right back to see what is shaking in Dr. Lauren's world. All right, Lauren, you are one of the most busiest pharmacist leaders I know. You got lots of stuff coming down the pipeline. So why don't you get us up on the speed of all of that? Because I think there's 3, 4, 5 things you have coming up currently and soon and coming up in the late near quarter fallish.
Yeah, there's all kinds of good stuff happening. It's spring, it's beautiful outside, like the world is opening up. And I'm just super excited because, when I started FMPHA, the membership itself, it was in 2020, right before COVID hit. Like, didn't know that a month later the whole world was going to be shutting down. And so it was beautiful in one way because we really got to connect online and virtually in this, completely new way that we're now all just so used to. But what really was missing from all of that was the ability to meet in person. And so now here we are 3 years later, and there's so many amazing pharmacists that I've only known online and haven't even had the chance to meet in person yet. And so it's really exciting that there's so many events coming up that are in person. And most of these events also have virtual options as well, right? So that's one, again, beautiful thing that came out of COVID is now pretty much anything that's happening in person usually has recordings available to make it even more accessible and affordable for pharmacists to be able to participate, whether you have a family and traveling is just not feasible, or you can't get the time off of work, or you want to be able to do both, right? Like for me, I always buy the recordings because I go to these in-person events and I spend the entire time networking and I don't get to actually sit and listen.
That's not a bad, I like that play because, the last event I went to, well, it's been a while, but let's just take APHA last year. It was like, I didn't go to one CE, but
Yeah.
I was too busy meeting, networking, and like that's where I have the most fun. So I love that you call that out, and I love that there are those virtual options for those people because yes, I have 2 young boys, and it's tough taking a weekend or however long these events are and leave the rest of the family behind. So that is awesome. All right, what do we got? What do we got first? Let's talk
So,
about let's talk about tomorrow. Let's starting tomorrow because I think
yeah.
that's really exciting.
Yeah, so this one's not an in-person event, but just as a reminder, we talked about this last week. Functional Medicine Pharmacist Boot Camp is kicking off tomorrow officially. So if you were on the fence or maybe forgot to sign up and you were looking at it, get signed up today so that we can get you added to the list to be on our first kickoff call tomorrow. Again, everything is recorded this time around. So this is sort of a little bit of a hybrid version where you get access to all the recordings for all the modules right off the bat. You can binge watch the content if that's easier for you, and then go back and kind of sift through 1 week at a time as we do the Q&As each week. So that's kind of the nice thing about this round is that there's a lot more flexibility with it. Showing up live just gives you the benefit of being able to get your questions answered live and, of course, get to talk with and hear from your fellow bootcamp members. So you can join through the RPH Ally platform. If you go onto the Functional Medicine channel, you'll see an option there where you can sign up. And again, the nice benefit there is you're going to get some extra support from me because you joined through the RPH Ally channel. So we're super excited to kick everything off tomorrow.
That's exciting. I love that, and thank you for choosing us too, Lauren. Because our kind of our paths go back to the same time, like when we both 2019. It was like the corporation was formed, and then little did we know, like for RPH Ally, we launched in May of 2020 because it was like, well, what else? So I love that connection we have. All right, so the next one coming up, in live, in person, Healers in Healthcare.
Yes. So we are going to be there with RPH Ally specifically. So I'm also really pumped for this. I'll be there. Marina is going to be there. I think Kevin's going to be there. Sean, are you missing this one?
Divide and Conquer is.
Yeah. So we're excited though. And then Thea is also going to be there. She's actually, I think, one of the speakers or presenters,
Oh, nice.
and has her,
Yes.
of course, RPM, CCM channel for RPH Ally. So Healers in Healthcare is going to be May 5th through the 7th in Cincinnati, Ohio. It's at the Summit Hotel. This is hosted by Dr. Christina Fontana. And we're just really excited for this event because it's going to bring together so many different entrepreneurs in pharmacy, but also just, I think it's just going to be an amazing event in terms of the energy that's there. And again, this mission of how do we transform healthcare? So, functional medicine is, of course, my passion and the way that I think we're going to transform healthcare, but it's not the only way. It's going to be, like you said, divide and conquer, right? There's so many different paths that someone can take. And so, depending on what you're interested in, there will be something for everyone at this particular conference. So, students are also welcome to join, which I think, if I would have had this when I was a student, like, who knows? I think so many of us could have had different pathways in pharmacy if we were exposed to more entrepreneurial content. Because for me, all that I got was like independent pharmacy, which is actually what I thought I was going to do whenever I was in pharmacy school. I was going to own an independent pharmacy. That was my mission in life. And then I ended up taking a different path. So it's kind of funny. Like the entrepreneurial bug, I think, will like find its way back to you if that's meant to be something you do in your lifetime.
Awesome. Yeah, it's sometimes not an easy path, but sometimes we overcomplicate it as well, right?
For sure.
It's launching your own, consulting practice where you start with your family members, your friends. You're like, oh, wait a second, I can do this and I'm really good at it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to think like, oh, wow, there's 100 steps ahead of me. No, start small, start simple, and do what you can do with the people around you. I love it. No, because we do not get that content in school. I think my essay I had to write to get into pharmacy school talked a lot about the independent pharmacy in my hometown. And by the time I left, that wasn't even an option for me, which, because it just wasn't. Anyways, all right, keep going, Lauren.
Yeah, just to add on, just with the Healers in Healthcare conference as well, Christina just added a virtual option. So as we've mentioned, if traveling to Cincinnati is not feasible for you, there is a virtual option that you can still purchase right now, and it's super affordable. So literally, like, no excuses on this one. Like, everyone should seriously consider signing up for this because it's going to be just incredible teaching. And I think the CE is only if you're in person, but even still, like, the teachings are going to be incredible. So don't miss that one. Our next event happening in May is going to be the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine Spring Congress. This is taking place in Orlando, Florida. So it's going to be at the Gaylord Palms, which love those hotels. I've been to the Diversify RX conference at the one that was in Texas, and like, they're just so much fun. It's a beautiful property and it's Florida. Like, you really can't complain, right? But what I love about the A4M conference is just, it is massive. Like, think the APHA level, like, hugeness, but instead of it being all pharmaceutical companies, it's like all the supplement and lab companies and biohacking devices and like stem cell people and IVs and hyperbaric oxygen. Like, it is so much fun to go to this conference for the expo, but also for the speakers. So tons of big name speakers that will be there. And the topic this year is called The Fire Inside. So it's all about inflammation. And it's really interesting. I think over this last year, this concept of longevity and anti-aging and inflammaging, like, has just been such a hot topic. Like, there's been multiple people who have written books about, how to live younger or live forever and all of these things. And it's because we really kind of see the writing on the wall with what's coming, unfortunately, for so many of our population as people are aging. And unfortunately, they're not looking at a pretty road ahead, right? Like, if you have chronic illness and chronic disease, our nursing homes and assisted livings are literally going to be like overflowing with people who unfortunately are at the end of their lives and are on all of this sick care. So this topic is so important. And I think this organization has actually kind of just been elevated over the last year in terms of the need for anti-aging approaches. And traditionally, whenever I've talked to pharmacists about, how do I pick a conference or how do I pick a training and which one should I do, I'll ask them about like, well, what are your interests? Because A4M is really great. One, if you are a compounding pharmacist, 100% this is a conference for you, because for many of the people in the anti-aging realm, we use a lot of hormone therapy, bioidentical hormones. And so they're always looking for compounding pharmacists to partner with. There's actually a lot of pharmacists who attend this conference. And they even do some specific CEs for physicians on how to write prescriptions for compounded products, like literally teaching them how to work with us, the pharmacists, which is really cool. But I also think that now, if you are in the geriatric pharmacy space, this is the functional medicine organization for you. And before, I never really made that connection until just recently, that it was like, wait a second. Like, I know we talk about anti-aging, regenerative medicine, right? And a lot of times there's so much more of a focus on like aesthetics, which is still a big part of this. Like, there's people there that are doing all kinds of skin procedures and plastic surgeons and people like that. So it's a very diverse group. But I think the new crowd that really needs to show up at this conference and is going to be able to get so much value out of it is our pharmacists that are involved with the geriatric populations, because they are going to be the ones actually needing a lot of these anti-aging concepts. So this is going to be super amazing. We also have partnerships with A4M. So we're actually doing a ticket giveaway this week. We have, I think, 3 tickets left right now. And so if you're an FMPHA member, you can apply to get a ticket. If you're curious about this, just send me a message on the RPH Ally platform and I will get you the info. And even if you don't get picked for a ticket, we have a $200 off discount from the ticket price. So it's going to be awesome. Highly recommend checking this one out. I literally don't think I'll ever miss an A4M conference in my life because they're just so much fun.
That's amazing. And I think, okay, so kind of a topic on that. I mean, it's kind of, you said it, like getting outside of your wheelhouse and going to something like this to like broaden your horizons. I love that. And speak more a little bit to the chronic inflammation, because that is something that I don't even know if that was a thing back when I graduated pharmacy school. Mm-hmm. Is that a more recent trend with this research coming out that we're starting to see, or like, can you talk about that a little bit? Because I know a lot of that is controlled through functional medicine, diet, all that stuff. So,
yep. So if you go back into, I think it was our second RPH Ally video that we did, we talked about the functional medicine approach to chronic disease. And we look at how there are a lot of different diseases out there that, traditionally we think about something like diabetes and we're like, oh, it has all of these different causes, right? Which is true. Like it can be, there's genetic components, there's nutrition components, there's not enough exercise or building muscle mass. Like there's all these different contributing factors to developing diabetes. But in a functional approach, we're actually looking, instead of like, oh, well, this heart disease is caused by this and diabetes is caused by this and depression is caused by this, and like separating it all, it's like, what's the root cause of all of them? What do they all have in common? And it's pretty much inflammation across the board. That, by and large, is the main driver of all chronic illnesses, is this chronic inflammation that we see. So inflammation, the process, is helpful whenever it's acute, right? Like if you break your arm, like, yes, you need swelling to happen to start to protect those tissues and bring blood to the site to heal, right? But whenever we have chronic inflammation going on in our bodies, that's where we start to see those microvascular diseases, all those different things that lead to outright chronic disease. So there is tons of research going on right now with inflammation. And actually, Sean and I were just talking about this before we even jumped on live about things like red light therapy, and like all of these new technologies that are coming out to attack that inflammaging process in different ways. And so this is, again, it's like the perfect conference if this is something you are interested in or have been reading about or curious about. The topics and the speakers are just going to be absolutely incredible.
That's awesome. And that's May. There's still some time to get ready for that one.
Yes. So that one's May 18th through the 20th. So definitely you've got a whole month ahead. Orlando usually has lots of direct flights from most big cities. So it can be pretty easy to get over to this one.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, that's a great update. That's exciting. And hopefully maybe next year I'll get that on my roadmap. So
definitely, I love
it. All right. So we've hit 3.
Yes.
Okay. Next one.
2 more. And unfortunately, these are on the same weekend. So if you are interested in the IFM conference, that's the Institute for Functional Medicine's annual international conference. This is going to be June 1st through the 3rd. It's also in Orlando. So I'm going to be in Orlando twice within just a couple weeks of each other. But this is at a different property. It's at Rosen Shingle Creek, which is more of a boutique property. Again, really beautiful. The food at IFM is absolutely amazing. Like it is all prepared to the standards of their elimination diets. So it's like just a retreat in and of itself to get to go to this event. And of course, this is the first in-person meeting that IFM has had since COVID. Last year's was still virtual. A4M's been back in person for, the last year now. So I think everybody in like the who's who of functional medicine is going to be at IFM this year because it's a big deal that it's back in person for the first time. We also have our partnership through FMPHA with IFM. So you can have discounted registration through our membership organization with them. And again, the topics, it's very similar, right? All a big focus on inflammaging and just that's like the hot thing right now. So it's going to be an amazing event. And again, unfortunately, it is the same weekend as our last event that I want to talk about today, which is Medipreneurs. So Medipreneurs is actually the 2nd through the 4th. It's in Kansas City. And if you're not familiar with Medipreneurs, this conference is going into its 6th year. And it was started by 3 pharmacists. Michelle Fritsch is who's leading it up primarily now. And this year, it's actually going to be an interdisciplinary conference. So it's open to more than just pharmacists. Historically, it's been mostly pharmacists with a few other different types of medical professionals. But this year, it's really designed to bring in lots of different types of professionals that are interested in entrepreneurship. So again, if you're at the beginning stages of your entrepreneurial journey, I would not miss this conference. Like, I love IFM. And absolutely, if like you are gung-ho in the IFM space, then yes, come to IFM with me. If you aren't so sure where you fit at in the functional medicine world, or maybe functional medicine's not even exactly what you want to do, the Medipreneurs Conference is, again, very broad, very much like Healers in Healthcare in some ways. It's going to have lots of different options there. So if you can't make Healers in Healthcare, try to get over to the Medipreneurs Conference because it's going to have that entrepreneurial focus. And I'm actually going to be crazy enough to fly from IFM to Medipreneurs just for the final day of it because Sean Nason is the keynote speaker. He is a former Disney Imagineer. He's actually a consultant that I worked with whenever I was doing my functional medicine project at Walmart. So we go way back, and I introduced him to Michelle, and then they hit things off, and now he's going to be the keynote speaker for Medipreneurs. So you can't miss him. It's going to be an awesome event. And again, if you are interested, we can send you some information about how to get signed up for Medis as well. So lots of exciting things coming up in the next 2 months. And I really, really, really hope to see you at least one of these events if you can swing it in your schedule. If not, grab the virtual options for any of these because you won't want to miss them.
I love it. Well, thank you, Lauren. That was a lot we just packed in there, but it's all exciting stuff, and it's all like really pushing the profession forward. I love that manypreneurs is opening up to other disciplines because we're all part of this healthcare team taking care of the patient. So that's amazing. So thank you, and we will catch you here next week, Lauren.